FoodPolicyUS is pleased to present this educational series highlighting issues and debates in our food system. Join us each week as we hear from leaders and innovators around the table.
The first thing is to talk a little bit about context. 7 billion people on the planet today. We're on the trajectory to have 9 billion people within a generation. We've found that we have limited inputs for those. That means soil, water, land, and fertilizer. And so that's the overall challenge. The strength is that even at 7 billion people, we've been remarkably efficient at producing food for those 7 billion people. The problems we have with hunger and food insecurity tend to stem from things like political will or distribution systems, not because we're not producing enough calories to feed all of those people. So we've done it, and we've done it fairly affordably at present. The weakness is how long are we going to be able to continue to do that, and the affordability that we've seen in the food system right now is a bit of a false affordability. It's masking problems that we have with soil health and water resources and farm worker health. And so that's the weakness, is that this is not long-term sustainable, and even to be ramped up to 9 billion people, will see those problems even in more stark relief. A strength is that we've had some of the best technology out there for our agricultural systems. And the weakness again is that technology has tended to be a type of a brute force technology, where you make the land produce at a higher and higher rate, and the costs are kind of kicked down the road in terms of the overall health of the food system. A healthy food system is one that accounts for all of those variables and externalities. So it's not only about the price and availability of staple food items, it's also about the price, what value we're giving to soil health. It accounts for the use of water resources. It accounts for pesticide use and the impacts of pesticide use on things like super pesticides. We're seeing resistance to some of the traditional pesticides now in the system. So that's a sustainable system where not that you don't have these impacts. There's always going to be impacts, but that they are accounted for, and they are reflected in the price of the inputs and the outputs of the total system. Yeah, I think that word mainstream is so key. I mean, it's lovely to sit around and talk about your farmer's market and an heirloom variety of potato. The reality is, I think the statistic I saw was that 50 million Americans were food insecure at some point last year. And so, the discussion of on the continuum, that the heirloom tomato, with its all the emotions that evokes, and the great flavor, that's something that you're proud to eat and serve to your family. And then you go down the continuum, and there's the flavor saver tomato that kind of tastes like water, and it's nice and red and looks pretty, but it's not the same experience. And then maybe further down the continuum to tomato flavoring, that's sort of a chemical substance. All those, I think our challenge is to make that ideal, the ideal of a real tomato, accessible to everyone in the country. And so that, to me, is the challenge. How do you make that the norm? And how do you make that both affordable, not just for the consumer, but all the way down the food chain, all the people that are involved in getting that tomato to your table? How do you make sure that they are fairly compensated as well?